That's good. Susan leaned over to me 2 or 3 times during our worship service already, and she said, "Did you pick these songs before or after the stuff happened this week?" And in truth, we picked them ahead of time. We picked them on Tuesday morning when we picked most of the stuff. Connie and I work on that together. It has been some kind of week, and I know that that's been on your hearts this week, particularly as the Supreme Court decision came down this week. I want to take just a moment or two before the message to just kind of talk about that together and respond to that together. And we're going to finish with a time of prayer in just a moment or two about where we stand. Someone said, it is as though everything has changed, and it is as though nothing has changed. And I think that those are really two things that we need to hold on to, because I think both of those two things have happened. But one thing is that we see a visible landmark in a departure of our culture from the Word of God. There's no question about that. And I think that when we come together today, we come together to grieve. We come together because we grieve the loss of a culture in a world in which we knew well and we lived comfortably in. And that's not here anymore. And we grieve that loss. Even deeper, we grieve over the fact that our culture has so publicly thumbed its nose at God. The images that we have seen together that have been in front of us all of the time, even some of our national monuments, just thumbing their nose at what God says, is a grief. It's a hard thing for us to be people of faith, to be the people of God, and say this is where we live today. And so I think as you process that on Friday and chewed on it and on Saturday, and as you come here today, I think one of the things that we just need to do together is that we just need to grieve. And we're going to do that in prayer together. The second thing I want you to hear me is that what we have to do as the people of God is that we have to stand our ground. I love this country. I'm grateful for the Constitution of the United States. It is the best government that's ever been formed of man. But my faith goes way further back than the 50-nifty United States. The foundation of my faith goes way further back than the Constitution. My faith goes way further back to the Word of God. And the Word of God is not reinterpreted. The Word of God is not redefined. The Word of God is not re-understood and repackaged. My life is called to submit to the Word of God from now and to eternity, until Christ comes back and beyond. And one of the things that we just need to know as the people of God is that the shifts may be occurring in culture, but the people of God submit to the Word of God and to the will of God. And we just have to say it doesn't matter what the rest of the culture says. And it may even come to the point where it does not matter what the law says, because we will be obedient to the things of God. Now that time may come with a price and a cost. It may come with a time and a price of a cost for your church, for your pastor, and even for you. But we will stand our ground on what the Word of God says. And we also remember that Jesus told us that we would have to count the cost. He told us that if we were going to follow Him, it was going to come with a price. The truth is that most of us have lived in a time and space where that price has been pretty small. And we have gotten used to a small price for following Christ. And we have to know that it may come to the time when that price increases. But this pastor and this church is going to stand with the Word of God. But I also want you to know, when this topic about same-sex marriage and same-sex attraction comes down, we're not just talking politics, and we're not just talking about decisions that are made in Washington, D.C. We're not talking about people who live a long ways away from here. We're talking about some of our friends and our neighbors, and sometimes people within our own families. And we're talking about people that God has called on us to reach. And as much as we are disturbed and we are frustrated and we are angry, we must never forget that we are called to love our neighbors. That Jesus said, by this they will know you are mine, by your love. Someone else said this week that it is impossible to hate and reach the same people. And we must make sure that as we grieve and as we stand our ground, we are not just here to win a cultural war. We are here to help people know Jesus. That's what matters more than anything and everything. To help people know Jesus. And when somebody who is struggling with same-sex attraction, when someone who is in favor of gay marriage, when somebody is in gay marriage, when they meet you, when they interact with you, what they know about what Jesus looks like is going to be based a great deal on how you interact with that person. Listen, the day when this issue used to be far away, and you would go home and tell somebody, I met somebody that I think was... Those days are a long ways away. This is where we live. And these are the people that we are assigned to love and to reach. And so that can't be lost in the middle of our frustration and our grief and our hurt. I want to give you one more word of encouragement. We feel this encircling by the culture, and that the culture does not believe anymore, and that the culture seems so far away, and the culture seems to be so opposed to the things of God. I want you to know that when Jesus sent out those 12 disciples, I want you to know that after the resurrection, those disciples covered the known world, and that known world was as broken as anything we have imagined in this world today. They were the tiniest minority, and the church had its strongest, most powerful, influential days in those first 3 centuries, when the culture was as far removed from God as it ever has been. Church, there's work for us to do. There's power in what we can do. I am so grateful that you came to church today, because there's no sense in us wringing our hands and saying, I can't believe that this culture, that this nation, that this government, that this whatever you want to say, has forgotten about the things of God, if we don't make ourselves renewed in our passion for the things of God. When I shared with someone that observation that the church has been here before and has had strong power in these kinds of days, that their observation was, yes, but I don't know if our church is as committed today as the church was in that day. And I had to say, I don't know either. I'm not just talking about First Baptist Church of Eunice. I'm talking about the Church of Jesus Christ. Because our culture has shifted in the way that it has, our people have to stand out more. We have to be more committed to the things of God. We have to live out our faith as passionately as we can. That's what these days require. So we're going to open up a time of prayer here. I don't even really have a specific plan for how we're going to do this. But we're going to call upon the name of the Lord this morning. And we're going to grieve. And we're going to renew our commitment to stand on His Word no matter what the winds of culture say. But we're also going to be reminded that the very folks that have frustrated us and disturbed us this week are the very folks that Jesus said go into all the world and preach the gospel. That's our assignment. And pray for our church. Pray for the people of our church. Pray for the church next door. That there will be power in these days as light shines in the darkness. Would you stand? I would encourage you, if you'd like, would you come at the front and pray down front? Would you come at this time and just voice a prayer on behalf of our country, our neighbors, and our church? Would you come at this time?